Hi, welcome everybody. This is an exciting and amazing, inspirational Zoom with Liz Gunn and myself, Jen Ailey, and we're talking about the new business paradigm. And our intention today is to inspire you, to enliven you, and a little bit enlightening you even, and to have some connection and fun together as we all step into this new paradigm and feel fortified from some practical insights and steps for ourselves as well. So I am Jen Ailey. I'm a business coach for creative and holistic entrepreneurs. I focus on prosperity mindset and marketing, sales, all the businessy stuff from a place of creativity and creative process and honoring intuition and process really. And Liz Gunn is an amazing astrologer who's very intuitive, and she has been an astrologer full-time since 2012 and has done over 3,500 readings in that time period and a bunch before. So she has a lot of insight into the collective, and she has an amazing way with words, and I can't wait to hear what she has to say today and share. And I want to share that this came out of a conversation where she casually mentioned the new business paradigm that's coming in. And I was like, what are you talking about? Tell me more. And so she hasn't told me yet. So I'm still waiting, so it's been 2 weeks and I'm like, okay. Because I wanted to create this class so that you all can receive this as well and be a part of this conversation. So today what we're going to do is I'm going to turn it over to Liz first, and she's going to share like the overall picture. And then we're just going to organically dive in naturally. I ask that if you have questions, you can raise your hand with the raise your hand prompt, or go ahead and put it in the chat and I'll keep an eye on that. And at the end, we'll do more formal questions too, if you have them. Okay, so I'm excited to get started and hear from Liz what it is that you see as the bigger picture of the new business paradigm that's coming in astrologically.
Okay, I'm kind of laughing that you've been waiting for 2 weeks and I have no idea what the new business paradigm is. However, what I will say, actually, how will I say that? So that did come out of a spontaneous conversation. And when I think about the new business paradigm, and I think about it in terms of the astrology, and really to kind of make a side note for what kind of astrologer I am, I really, I don't have to use astrology language to talk about it. So everything that's coming through is the astrology, but I'll clarify certain things because I'm a Taurus and I have a lot Taurus and Mars in Aries and Moon in Sag and Cancer rising. And I have been learning and living into and embodying the planetary archetypes of astrology since my early 20s, and I just turned 60. And so it lives inside me in this visceral way. And when I think about the new paradigm, this is a very not professional statement, but it's really about not giving a fuck anymore about anything that the patriarchal mandate has prescribed to us and like embedded in our conditioning. So it's this Uranian archetype of liberating ourselves from the social constructs that tell us there's a right way or a wrong way to do us. And so, for anybody thinking about answering some sort of inner call or inner push to bring something forward, the new paradigm lives within you, within the archetype of your own life force energy. So it's not like I have a formula or I have a prescription. That prescription is your medicine inside of you that wants to come out right now. And I know when I, and so the way that I kind of could back up to say how I started to answer the call of what the new paradigm was for me really started last year during my second Saturn return in 2021. And the Saturn-Uranus square that was creating this, beautiful and uncomfortable pressure to squeeze me through more into the essence of my own true operating system. So last summer at this time, July and August of 2021, I was just slamming it with readings, because readings are my thing. And that's really where my mastery is, in learning from people what the current astrology is that's not actually in the books in the broader way that I'm learning. But last July and August, I did close to 90 readings in those 2 months. And I was like, oh, this is so great. This is my upgrade. You know, this is part of my Saturn return, of how I'm upgrading into more manifestation. And I was exhausted. And it was still during the pandemic. So that was all I was doing. And I felt on top of the world come the end of August, like, oh, this is so great. And then I think the universe said, oh, good, we have her exactly where we want her. And then the phone stopped ringing in the 1st of September. Like, it went dead silent. And it was just, and so as part of the Saturn archetype, all of my insecurity, all my fear, all this old conditioning just flooded through my body in this massive way. And all year, I had, my mantra for my second Saturn return was, I am willing, ... because I knew that as a strong Taurus, even though I'm a high risk taker, that change was going to be asked and I didn't know what it was. So my mantra was, I am willing. And I had to keep reminding myself, I am willing, I am willing. And I could feel this Saturn energy just pressing against me of, you have to do something different. You have to be different in your work. And I didn't know what it was. So that to me was sort of the outer edges of the new paradigm for me, kind of pushing me forward. And then I randomly saw Jen on Facebook offering some prosperity thing. And I just, you know, I have a habit with this overactive Mars and Aries sometime of like, click, 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 send. Okay, I just did that. And then something happens. And what happened was I did this class and got tremendous value out of it. And then one thing led to another, and we started working together. But it was the realization that I wasn't so much on the top of the world at the end of August, but the end of a road. And that realization was kind of hard, because, you know, coming through my 50s and being in this energy of bringing forth more of me, what I recognized was more of the Saturn energy clearing, where the realization was, I'm fucking done trying to prove myself to myself that I can make it like this. I'm ready to go from striving to thriving. And what does that look like? You know, in a Uranian energy that is so prevalent right now, of really going further out on the edge of who I am. So that's a download that I didn't know I was going to say. But Jen, I don't know, do you have anything you want to add to that or ask about? Or
Well, I feel like if I can reflect on your process more that I know about before I go into mine, I feel like, you know, you saying yes to you and to working with me and to being open to the change, and then knowing that you love your work and you want something different, but it wasn't sustainable for you. And so now, you know, how many months later, 9 months later or so, like, you're in a place where you've created a whole new paradigm in your business, where you can have 6 sales and make the same amount of money as you did in 180 sales before.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a new paradigm.
I feel like I just had a baby.
Yeah, totally.
9 months later.
And it's like, you know, that the process of getting there took that many months, you know, and it was all there all along too. And like what you said about like squeezing yourself, like that, that pressure of like pushing against the normal paradigms, and like the patriarchal paradigms and the hierarchical paradigms, and like the right or wrong, and the external focus, I'll add too, like just the external, and that's what's valid, and that's what's real, and that's what's whatever, all those things, and like coming back to yourself and asking like what you want to create. And so I'll just transition that into my own journey, which is You know, like 2019 was really rough, I thought. And then 2020 hit hard before COVID even. I had three major things happen that were really intense that I was still processing a year and a half later. And I just like, I was super busy, very active, had two businesses, yada, yada stuff. And I was so external and so focused and so busy. And I got to slow down, and my body was also making me slow down. And so I've had to also reevaluate everything, and from a deeper place basically, of like what wants to come. And it's, you know, I don't know what part of my chart is making me this way, but I just want to do shit. Like I just want to go do it and do it. And one of the things that I heard, and I wrote on my wall in my office, and I can't remember where I heard this, but it was energy, not action. Like the world, the earth is, people and the earth are all responding to energy, not action. So you can't just do something and it works easily. And the things that we used to do that work don't work anymore the way they used to. And so it's really got to come from us, from a deeper place. And it's more of an energetic resonance for things and alignment to come from that place instead of just doing something. And I think about Qigong and how sometimes in doing Qigong, like you're moving your arms and you're moving your body, but you're moving from your center. You're not just moving your arms, you're moving your center so that your center is guiding and leading the whole movement. Like your analogy, the ship thing, Liz, you know, like the ship is moving and I'm moving with it. And you have a new perspective and you're going to end up on a different continent, you know, and it doesn't have to go fast. You know,
Yeah. So can I say that's a perfect segue, because I'm getting like a whole download
perfect.
of that is really what, so if there is one key astrological thing right now, it is Mars moving through Taurus, Uranus in Taurus, and the North Node in Taurus meeting up July 31st, August 1st, August 2nd, you know, but we're feeling this energy, and it's a very catalytic energy. And I think of Uranus as, and really the new paradigm to me is very Uranian. But I think of Uranus as the catalytic impulse of the soul to evolve. We're hardwired to evolve. We're hardwired to relocate ourselves in time and space. In the way that Uranus does that, and is in these kind of quantum relocations that happen in unprecedented, unexpected, and unforeseen ways. And so there's this real momentum now. But in the sign Taurus, you're talking about sort of energy and action. One of the key things that maybe is a little prescriptive, that could be sort of across the board for everybody, that is this Taurian archetype, is stillness, silence, listening. Because if that is a way of life for me in a very deep way, you know, I hear different people in, you know, different forums talking about, you know, give yourself 5 minutes of silence a day. I'm like, oh my God, like I'm like, get up at 6 so I can have 3 hours before I do anything, because I feel sometimes like and I find that it's integrated into my life. When I drive, I don't often listen to anything. I feel like someone in a desert who's parched for silence, because silence is where spirit, God, source, the universal life force is going to speak to me in a non-linear way, so that arises in me as an impulse, not a thought to take an action. So that when my Mars in Aries does some crazy shit and it leads to life change, it's because it's arisen out of an impulse that I have been allowing to work on me. And so and there's a high level of insecurity that is always kind of a dance in that, because that's part of the conditioning to come out of the mental linear orientation to, if I do this, then I do this, then I do this. And we're going to have that no matter what. But what I've learned is I will start with what I think that is the alignment process for forward momentum. But the stillness and the silence and the allowing of not knowing then kind of comes in and adjust. And so I never know where I'm going. I never know where I'm going to get arrive. And I actually don't think there is an arrival. But for me, I think part of the new paradigm is learning how to not only get comfortable, but thrive at the razor's edge of your own unknown and keep expanding that and expanding that. Because that's, when I get too ensconced in my the Taurus pieces and parts of me that like everything to just be safe and the same old, because then I don't have to think about what the next thing is going to be. And that's where I was last July and August. It was like, oh, this is awesome. But it really wasn't, because I wasn't actively engaged with that outer edge. And so it kind of caved in. And so that's part of the discipline that comes with silence, is being able to micro adjust. And when I did Jen's free online prosperity something on Facebook, just thinking, and I didn't even know Jen then, but I knew of Jen because we're both in Asheville. And so I read through it and there was deep resonance. And then at the end, there was this kind of call to action to sign up for coaching. And I told my daughter and she laughed. She's like, that's why people do those things. I was like, oh, well, but I signed up. And it felt, it's like that one thing leads to another. So to me, that was this guidance, micro adjusting me, steering me. And when I did say yes to Jen, and I think this is a key component of the new paradigm, is literally the night that I sent her a chunk of money. I was laying in bed and I literally viscerally could feel, I felt like my cells and the molecules in my body were coming apart and expanding. And inside myself, I was like, oh, fuck, this is like the point of no return. Like I just made this commitment and now I fucking have to do it.
Welcome to my world.
And it was, but I felt like I could feel myself as part of the cosmic space, as if I was orbiting and being not only recalibrated, but taken apart and put back together. And it was a profound experience because it told me I was so uncomfortable that inside myself, I thought, well, I must be on the right path, because I've learned for myself that the rightness of the path is in vibrational coherence to my level of discomfort. And that's also part of the prescriptive new paradigm, is the more uncomfortable you are, the more you're on the right path right now.
And I think that's beautiful. And I wrote down like 3 quotes that I want to come back to from your brilliance just now. And I want to speak to that piece, like the discomfort and the comfort. Because I feel like, because there's different places you can feel those different things, right? So like if I say yes to something, and it's a natural impulse from deep within me, and it's a yes vibration, and it's like yes, and I feel uncomfortable, but like my ego feels uncomfortable because it's new, or my inner child feels uncomfortable because she's scared. But like I still know in my bones that I'm doing the thing that I'm meant to do next. And I almost can't stop it. Like I'm just doing it, like I think about the times when I've felt compelled to move, like across the world, literally across the planet, like to Honduras or to Hawaii or to Asheville, and a bunch of places in between. And I just felt it. And once I had the place, it was just like, that's what's happening. And there was no amount of, and it wasn't like yeah, I wasn't trying to prove anything. I wasn't going for, it was just like a knowing, you know? And so I feel like for me, there are knowings that come up within me about what's next. And then there's terror sometimes about, you know, making that thing happen, or like connections to past fears about, you know, what could, the things that could happen. And I think most of us are in a state of freeze. And I just want to clarify what that is from a, you know, I'm not a therapist, so if somebody is a therapist, wants to jump on here, feel free too. But like what I learned about the freeze state of fight, flight, freeze, fawn, there's another one, fight, flight, freeze, fawn, flop. That's it. It's a new one, for real. It sounds like I made it up, but I didn't. And basically when you're in a freeze state, it's when part of you is saying, I have to, and part of you is saying, I can't. And we have all been in a major trauma for the last 3 years, 2.5 years, whatever it is now. It's a time warp of something. And we're not out of it yet. Like our lives still change because of COVID all the time. And all the things that have been impacted by that we're still not used to, that we're still adjusting to. And then there's a billion other things on top of that have changed and shifted in all kinds of ways. And we're still adjusting, and we're still recalibrating ourselves to where we are now on a daily basis. Like, where am I in time? You know, and figuring out what that looks like. And so the no arrival piece is, so just one more piece about that. So if you feel like you are in a freeze state, it's like push what we normally would do with that. I would normally do with that in my own system is push myself, like, oh, come on, you got this, you know. But I have zero capacity for that, like zero, like negative capacity for that. So I do something small. Like, so if I have a big business thing I want to do later on that day, I will do a lot of little tasks that day. Like today before this call, I was needing to shift my energy. So I went out and potted some new plants in new pots that are gorgeous. And it made me so happy and made me feel like, okay, now I did that. Now I can do this. So it's like that. That's common, at least a couple of days a week for me. And I know that with my clients too, like just to get things done at all, to be able to show up for your nervous system and to regulate your nervous system is a big, huge part. It's like half of my business is doing that for myself. Like it's really upgrading that self-care and supporting others in that too, you know? So no arrival. I'm going to quote some Liz here. So okay. No arrival. So stillness, silence, listening, nonlinear information that comes as an impulse. And I want to clarify. I don't think you meant impulsive. You meant like a natural, deep impulse that comes from within. Yeah, that's what I thought. And then there's no arrival. So that 3 times now. I repeated that. And then this is the quote of the day so far. Thrive at the razor's edge of the unknown. That's the constant practice right now. Thrive at the razor's edge of our unknown in each of our individual lives, you know? And then that looks like micro adjusting. And this, you know, my whole TED talk is about honoring the creative process. And my corporation name is Happily Ever Now, because it's all about the process. And that's what I'm learning, despite my ego sometimes, to like be in the process, trust the process. And what I'm finding is that if I take the small steps, the next thing will come. And like for example, just a very practical example right now that seems kind of random, but I've been wanting to create an online store forever and a membership program, but I've been like trying to get it right forever and get it perfect. And I've been researching all these platforms that like Kajabi and all these things for years and like looking at them and blah, blah, blah. And I decided on one. And then like this week I got an email and they changed to create a whole nother thing that I can use that works way, way better for me. So I signed up the next day and I'm like, okay, like I couldn't have seen that happening and coming the way it did. But it was just like, and it was just a timing thing too. Like I was ready, it shifted, and it's even better than before. And it wasn't quite a yes before, but now this is it, and it works for me better than if I would have said yes to anything before that. And I hit the ground running, you know, yesterday in one day. It's only been a day, but like that kind of stuff is what's happening for people. Like once you think it's like you can't see the sprout, you can't see the sprout, you can't see the sprout, and then like you have like a whole plant all of a sudden, you know. That's what I'm seeing in my life and my clients' lives too. And because there's so much deep root work, you know, with the water element in Chinese medicine of like the deep stillness, and then the vision or the ideas, and then eventually boom, you know, it just like there's such a deep root system of nurturing this depth that we're all in when we've been in with ourselves, that it just comes up. Okay.
I love that. Jen's a Taurus too, and a moon in Sag.
No, we have the same moon and sun, yeah.
Yes. And so a couple of things about talking about this impulse and this Uranian energy and sort of getting to our razor's edge, because another thing that a quote that's not my original quote, maybe it was, I don't know whose it was, but I always talk about, because I think about this as a fifth house in astrology kind of expression of I am the master of my fate, I am the captain of my ship, I create my personal destiny. I really think about that, you know. And when we talk about the impulse arising and the ability to adjust, and one of the, and so these Taurus themes with the North Node in Taurus, Uranus in Taurus, and Mars currently in Taurus, and Taurus is so about present moment, and that's part of my gift as a strong, because that's such a strong, you know, expression of that Taurus energy, is getting to our razor's edge and thinking about the Uranus state of being. And I think about Uranus too, because it's the higher octave of Mercury, connecting to the mind of God. And for me, as an astrologer and an intuitive astrologer, so much of sort of the broader base of what I do from a spiritual perspective, it's my fascination really started with astrology, but it was really my fascination with consciousness, with meaning. Like what does it mean to be here? And there's something about this energy that is very enlivening and very exciting. And so if we can tap into that, then that really is the leveraging, you know, of anything that you want to do, because it's going to connect not only to your life force, but the life force of the cosmos. And when we get into coherence with the life force of everything, we are that. And it's really amazing what can be created out of it. And I know when I started to let go, even last summer, of sort of this construct of reality, that abundance was in the shape of a little rectangle and really a dollar bill, and looking at my abundance really has to be filtered through a way of life and how I feel. And yes, you know, as long as I'm in a body and here, and I'm a Taurus, and the universe really knows how to get my attention, and it's always through my bank account. It's just like, she won't do jack shit unless we like mess with her money, and then she'll do what we want. And so, but at the same time, really allowing this Uranian energy to recalibrate what is of value and what our value is. And our value arises, I at least for me, the more I am tapped into a loving consciousness, the more I feel aligned to my value from a narrative that isn't a narrative that was implanted over me or cloaked over me. And that's been a life's work to get out of that. So this time feels very liberating to really understand that we're here now, like we are here now in a body as part of a soul agreement to be here during this great turning on the planet. And that it's not what you do that is the way that the energy is going to shift, but it's the state of being. And then whatever it is that has to be created to support your physical existence, if it comes out of that state of being that's connected to the coherence of everything, I think there is only thriving. And for me, it's like the insecurity or the fear might still pop in. Sometimes, I can be just fine and something will come up, and I know that Saturn all of a sudden decided to sit on my right shoulder and tell me how it, how maybe I'm not good enough, or something. And I have to, my consciousness has to meet that narrative and dismantle it for the truth, because we're all inherently enough. And so when I think about going to that outer edge, that razor's edge, this Uranian archetype of creation can only be created from the now. It can't be created from seeing something forward or out there on the horizon that we want to go to. That's the old way.
Mm.
And that's really, and so that's where synchronicity and serendipity and dialogue with the mystery really comes in. I know when Jen and I did our consult to see if we were a good fit to work with each other, my prayer before we got on the call was, please give me a sign that this is in alignment. And so, of course, one of the first things I asked Jen was, what's your birthday? And her birthday, can I say your birthday?
Yeah.
It was April 28th. Well, my son's birthday is April 28th. So even though these little micro synchronicities are spirit's way of talking. And then when we were figuring out sort of money and payment and you did a discount, the discount was 428.
It wasn't a discount.
Oh, what? It wasn't a discount.
No, I was taking off part of it for my own session with you.
Oh, thank you.
So when I subtracted that amount, which I paid her more than her rate for that, and then I subtracted it, it was exactly 428.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
One of the numbers was in there somewhere.
Yeah, so I'm just like all the ways that this coherence can communicate to us, and then we can track moment by moment, next step. And that's really the razor's edge, is being in the fucking now.
Yeah, it is.
Excuse my language, but
no, please, we're already past that. As usual. I love that. I love that the whole well, and you and I had the same signs too. Like we're both Taurus Sag. That was another thing. It was just like boom, boom, boom. So one of the things that you said was the Uranian can only be created from the now, and and I just want to say too, like this Zoom meeting is exactly that. Like we didn't plan details, as you can tell. We just let's show up, let's be present and see what comes, and it's hard for parts of us. Like we were a little bit nervous, I think, because it's like, okay, let's see what happens, and it's also the best place for magic. When you step into the unknown, you don't know, you have endless possibilities. You have infinite possibilities. Literally, you can be going forever. So it's like you're just stepping into that. And I just want to acknowledge that, like both of us Tauruses and Sag moons, like that's the perfect mix for this, because we can be present and grounded and fly by the seat of our pants.
Oh, yes. And I will say, Jen, really quick, just as I know from an astrology perspective, maybe Uranus is thought of as the future. And I'm saying it's the now, but I just want to say from the way that I operate, all time is now, and so there is no future. But we use language with anything to say Uranus represents, the future or a futuristic reality. But I like to not have a demarcation line with time, and so that is where it's all converged right now.
Well, and I feel more pull toward a future this right now. And Lee Harris, who I follow, you know, he says there's more possibility for things to happen later this year. I feel like we've been building up to like right now, basically, and now things are kicking in, and I feel that a lot and see that a lot too. And I have some more Liz quotes to review here too. So the coherence thing is huge, like really, and I think about, you know, coherence as regulation for your nervous system and alignment for like your values, love, whatever it is that you want to align with, you know, like the resonance. That's like, you know, your highest possible vibe, basically. But you don't always have to be there, because you can also, whatever it is that is coming up, meeting it, this is a Liz quote, meet it and dismantle it. So that's huge too. That's what I think we've all been doing that on some level, you know, like coming up against our edges of like the unknown, changes, fears, like all these things. And then, you know, we're becoming stronger because of it too. Yeah. And then not what you do, but the state of being, you know, and this is something that, you know, it's like be, do, have, give, receive, give, you know, like, oh, that's the sort of rhythm of things, not like do, you know, like our culture is always do and action, you know. So and then just I love this piece about being fully in the present to be able to create, because like I feel like there's like the innovative energy that's needed right now, and the creativity that's needed to do what's next for each of us in our, as we create our lives at the next level. And it's a new thing for all of us, and the world is doing that as well. We're doing that in the world because we need it. We need to change the systems and the structures that are there that are not serving us, that are really devastating in some ways, and in lots of ways. So the only way to do that is to create from the now, and that's the catalytic energy of like, you know, yes, this is happening, that's not great in my life or in the world, and what's the catalyst, what's it a catalyst for? Like that's the impulse of like, you know. And I think about during COVID, I didn't really do a lot of marketing unless I was pissed off, and then I would write a blog. So I wrote, and when I got pissed about something, like for example, during the BLM movement, I learned that there was like this huge amount of racism in banking system. So I deep dove into that and wrote an article about it and helped people find ways and places to put your money and get your mortgages and everything that are supporting the opposite of that, instead of perpetuating that, for example. But basically I didn't really do a whole lot, I didn't really have it in me to do it unless I was pissed off, and then I had it in me because it was a natural impulse from deep within me, like where I had to do it, you know. Yeah.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Right.
before, I know you're going to open it up to
Yeah.
questions. I do want to say sort of one, and maybe I've already said it, but this astrology transit with Mars, Uranus, the North Node, and Taurus is really, you know, we're in this sort of momentum with it, and it has and so what I would say for anybody who's in a creative process of discovery of next steps, that this really is the time to take a risk. And I heard something and I thought about it, and this is really true with this Uranus energy, because Uranus is a very impersonal energy, and so it's not concerned with how we feel. And the ask is to move ourselves forward, because our individual momentum of forward motion from the now is how the collective is going to move into a much more humanitarian, non-hierarchical, collective, shoulder to shoulder way of being in global community and cosmic community with one another. And so there is an ask. You know, I always am saying, what is the ask? What is, because it's not that the planets ever cause anything, and that there's not a causal relationship. We are the living, breathing, archetypal energy in an embodied way of what that planetary of the way the dance in the sky lives through us. And so I can know what the ask is by what's happening in my body. Everybody may get it differently, but there is another. So last year Saturn and Uranus were in a square to one another, and there's another square in I think I don't know, remember the date, October, 18 degrees, where Uranus right now is 18 degrees. Saturn will be 18 degrees. It won't be exact to the minute, but it's like there's something setting up now that wants all of us to be in this creative impulse, and then we're going to get more revealing. And this is happening in the bigger part world, but to be really cognizant of all the ways that we are being fed through synchronicity and magic, and what I call the oracle of everyday life, or the signs and symbols for everything we need and everything that wants to be presented to us as a clue for what's the next thing is available to us. So I would just encourage everyone to take that next step. And we can still feel paralyzed by that Saturn energy of constriction sometimes. And Pluto's in the last couple of degrees of Capricorn and really bringing up a lot of cellular memory material that I think connects to many, many lifetimes for deep healing. But Uranus wants to relocate us no matter what. And I've learned for me that if I can participate in that relocation, it feels better than if Uranus does it all without my participation.
Yeah,
I've had both.
absolutely.
So
Yeah, last night I pulled a card and it said it was about change, and like about growth. Like you have to grow, and you have something has to change significantly to put you in a better place for more growth. So yeah, definitely.
Shauna just asked a question about how do you think Pluto moving into Aquarius next spring will affect us? Will it further amplify the Uranian themes you've mentioned? I feel like, gosh, coming out of Pluto in Capricorn since 2008, it's going to feel like just coming into just a completely new ability to see things, like coming up for air. And because Pluto takes so long to move, I think depending on where it is in your chart is going to be where you're going to notice sort of, I don't know, maybe the resurrection that wants to come with that. But I think you're right that I think it will further amplify the Uranian themes, and it just depends on where that is in your chart and all the aspects to like what that further evolution will be. So that's just a quick answer.
Beautiful. And now we can open it up for more questions or themes you want to bring up. If you have a question, you can raise your hand physically or technically with the techie part. Okay. Who wants to go first? I can't see everybody at once all the time, so make sure. You can also share insights or anything that really resonated for you to get started too. Yeah, Kristen, go ahead.
First of all, thank you both for having this session, because this has been so awesome. And I totally just had this feeling sitting here like, oh yeah, I was meant to come to this today. And every day I pull an oracle card, and today I pulled the card Surrender, which feels very true to what you're talking about. And really, yeah, releasing that need for the unknown and being able to go with it. And I like to bring for myself the imagery of just like floating in a body of water and allowing it to carry. So just wanted to bring that to the group, and wanted to thank you both for having this space today.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you so much. I'm glad you're here. Yeah. I remember one time when I lived in Maui, I had homework from a therapist or somebody, some person I was working with. It was to go float in the water. It was like, go experience surrender. And I have a little bit of fear of like, monsters getting me when if I can't see all the way to the bottom of the water, and even if I can sometimes. So it was hard to just like lay in the middle of the ocean and just really let go all the way. And that visceral experience of surrender is not easy for the part of us that,
Not at all.
yeah.
Surrender is a Pluto word. So thinking about Shauna's question about Pluto and Aquarius, and one thing that I've noticed with clients, but with my life right now, with these last couple of degrees of Pluto in Capricorn, it's like the pipeline through all time that has material that connects to Pluto. So that's abuse of power and trauma, and where things have been just condensed into this solidified bedrock, which is that Capricorn energy. And so power, and powerlessness, and really what is the definition of being powerless, because we don't often surrender until we actually feel that acute powerlessness, which I've had plenty of in a certain situation in my life in the last number of months. But it's also Pluto's function is to bring us into an empowerment that is connected to the power of love. And so part of what's clearing out now, to me, has a lot of residue and resonance and cellular memory connected to, and the South Node in Scorpio as well by transit, I think brings this in, is just where we're clearing themes through all time as part of coming into the new paradigm. And so I do a lot of work in a new offering I have that connects with past lives. And I don't really care. I'm not a past life regression person, but I can get content about past lives through readings. And there's something really valuable about that now, because that's on a molecular level what is dissipating or dissolving in a way that, so that the new paradigm can take up residence in our body, and we're not, that karmic pipeline is getting purified, cleansed, cleared.
Beautiful. Yeah. Deep clearing for sure.
Deep. Yeah.
Yeah, listen.
I have so much I want to say. I could respond for an hour, but I want to say thank you for this. It's just spot on, and just everything that I needed and wanted to hear, and validating all my process that I'm going through right now. Jen, a synchronistic experience. My experience in Maui, swimming in Maui, was being 7 months pregnant and getting caught in a riptide.
Oh.
And my partner had to come out and get me, and I just had to lay on my back and surrender and let her tow me back.
Wow.
So that was my Maui experience. So I appreciate you bringing that up, because that was one of the real significant points in my life where I had to surrender and just trust.
Wow.
And that's amazing. That reminds me of so the founder of Interfamily Systems work, the psychology work, IFS,
which I love.
Dick Schwartz, yeah, he told this story I heard one time that said, so he was in Kauai and he was caught in a riptide, and he was way out there. Like he was like, and he was so far out there, and you can't, you're not supposed to fight it. He didn't really, I don't think he was that much of an ocean person, so he kind of didn't know what to do. And he had a voice in his head that was like, you're going to die.
Mm-hmm.
And he's, in his IFS way, he said, well, if we do, I'll be right here with you.
I love that.
So that's some serious freaking voice work right there. And that's when we're at that edge, I think that's what we have to do with ourselves right now. And when we're in that free state and we have things we want to do and we can't do it yet, it's like, how do we meet ourselves where we are, parent ourselves in a whole new way that, as we clear all these deep things that from childhood or from before, and how do we show up for ourselves and with ourselves in the moment and really, really give ourselves what we need. And that is a lot of times just presence.
Yeah. And I think that speaks to the recalibration piece too. Like I was at a nonprofit for the last 3 years. I left in June, where I was personally involved in bringing down 3 old, white, straight executive directors who were just driving the organization in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
And so I've been fighting personally and as an ally, especially to our BIPOC staff, our young BIPOC staff who weren't being adequately supported. And, I'm still in that energetic feeling of battle and fighting. And the reality is I'm sitting at home and I'm ready to launch my own business and to go solo and not to work for an organization anymore. I'm done with organizations. I've done the work.
We're creating
I'm
our
old and I'm
own
tired.
systems, our own structures. And that's
Exactly.
the power of business, to bring it all back around. Like each of us here, each of us listening, each of us in the world, we can all create our own creative process with our vision and what part we want to fill in the world to bring the opposite of what we don't want. It's like we want more of something.
Yeah, that's what
Yes.
really resonated in what you were saying. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Because it is
Beautiful.
scary.
Yeah.
Like to not be conventional. It's scary. People are conventional.
Oh yeah.
A lot
Oh
of pressure
yeah.
to be conventional.
Totally. Yeah. And I just had a huge healing recently when I'm at home to Tennessee. I'm from rural East Tennessee. And I've never felt like I fit in there. Even when I was in like high school, they're like, yeah, you're going to be in the Peace Corps in Africa in 5 years. I wasn't. I was in Honduras a few years later teaching, but like I never felt like I fit there, and I was always judging myself. There was always that Saturn voice of like, oh, you should be this, you should be that, like all of these people who have this and that, you should be. And I'm like, I don't want that. And I just forgot for a second. When I go home, I would forget, like, I don't want those things the way that they are there. And it's like, oh, okay, I have to create my own. And it's not easy. And that's why we have community too. Like we have to have each other in community in order to remain remotely sane and to get anything done, to be able to talk this through and support each other in it. And I want to finish up, but Liz, you have something else?
Well, I want to just say something to what you're saying, Alyssa, because I know that you and I think, are the same age possibly. And I just think about that, because I've been saying this too, as we accept the mantle of elder coming through that second Saturn return, and what is that responsibility? And with great power comes great responsibility. And so the power is the empowerment of the transformative journey of your entire life and the wisdom that you hold, and that you're part of your skillful means that you've developed in your professional life is that how the system works. So now you know how to break it or break free from it, or to be in a and it's not easy. That's that Saturn Uranus thing. But I feel like there's something about sort of having one foot in, one foot out, and about to take both feet out, that that you're bringing wisdom with you in the creative energy of that Uranus energy. And so it's not actually a limitation. It's the energy of your own inner authority, your mastery, and freedom from the conditioning. But the conditioning is real because we live here and we've lived through it. And so it is a part of the fabric of our experience. But to really like own that you are the master of your fate.
Beautiful.
And it's
Thank
amazing.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you all. This is so wonderful. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So if you want to connect with Liz more, her website is lizgunn.net, lizgunn.net, lizgunn.net. And she does does private sessions, and she also has a longer term program and some more offerings coming soon. So it's a private program for individuals as well, but it's like very deep and beautiful with beautiful themes, and it's coming from deep within her. And it's like so like rich and wonderful. So if you're interested in that, check her out there. And if you have a business and you want support for your business, or you want inspiration for prosperity, you can go to my website and get the money makeover kit. And my website is Jen Ailey Coaching, JENALY coaching.com. And I'm also very active on Instagram, and there's a Facebook group that's free, and all that's on my website too. So so thank you all for being here and showing up. and hope you receive some gems. Thank you so much, Liz, for being here
Thank
and being
you. Yeah, thank
spontaneous
you.
and channeling this. And I appreciate you all so much. This has been so wonderful.
Thank
You're
you so
welcome.
much.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much. Bye.